He stood at the far end of the crowded bar, jaw tight, fists clenched, eyes locked on her like she was prey. She didn't see him at first, of course not. She was too busy laughing at whatever nonsense Theo was whispering in her ear, her hand resting just a little too long on Theo's arm. But Ethan saw every damn second of it, and it made something wild uncoil in his chest. Not anger, not hate, hunger, possession. That wicked, hot-blooded pull he thought he had buried long ago. Mira had said she needed space, said they were suffocating each other, said she wanted to figure herself out. That was 2 months ago. 2 months of silence. 2 months of him pretending not to care. 2 months of her pretending she wasn't burning every time she walked past him in the apartment they still shared. She could lie to herself all she wanted, but he saw it. In the way she glanced at him when she thought he wasn't looking. In the way her shoulders tensed when she heard his key in the door. In the way she smiled too easily with others, as if trying to prove something. He could have left. Should have. But Ethan didn't believe in giving up what was his. And Mira didn't believe in letting him go. Not really. Interesting choice, he muttered under his breath, eyes narrowing as Theo leaned closer and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. Ethan didn't move, didn't storm over, didn't say a word. He just stared. Let the heat rise in his gut and fill his veins with something raw and dangerous. Mira caught his gaze then mid-laugh, eyes sparkling, and froze, just for a second. But it was enough. The color rose in her cheeks. She turned back to Theo to fast, nodding at something he said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. Ethan took a slow sip of his drink, his smirk sharp enough to cut. They were playing a game. She had started it. She just didn't know how far he'd go to win. Back home, hours later, she slammed the apartment door behind her, cheeks flushed from wine and adrenaline, or maybe from something else entirely. He was already there, sitting on the edge of the kitchen counter like a shadow waiting to pounce. She didn't speak. Neither did he. The silence wrapped around them like smoke. I saw you, he said finally, voice low and rough. Good for you. She replied, brushing past him, heading to the fridge. You touched him. I touch people all the time, Ethan. Not like that. The fridge door stayed open longer than necessary. When she closed it, he was suddenly closer, blocking the hallway, his eyes locked on hers with a heat that made her pulse skip. What do you want, Ethan? She asked, trying to sound tired, annoyed, anything but affected. He didn't answer, just stepped closer. She didn't move. His voice dropped even lower. Tell me it didn't feel good, watching me watch you. Her breath caught. That's what this is, isn't it? He whispered. You want to see how far you can push me. She should have walked away, should have laughed, should have called him pathetic or jealous or insecure. But all she could do was stare back, lips parted, heart pounding. You're not mine anymore, he said, but his hand brushed her hip. But you're not his either. She shivered. The tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. 1 second they were just standing there. The next his mouth was on hers, hard, demanding, desperate. She gasped, fingers curling into his shirt, nails dragging down his chest. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was months of silence, of aching, of pretending, unraveling in a kiss that tasted like a warning. I hate you, she murmured. Into his mouth. No, you don't, he growled, lifting her onto the counter. She kissed him harder. Later, tangled in sheets they swore never to share again, she lay beside him staring at the ceiling. This changes nothing, she said quietly. I know, he said, but it did. They both felt it. The next morning, she was gone before he woke up, left nothing behind but the scent of her on his pillow and a note on the counter. You're still an asshole, but I missed you. Days passed. No texts, no run-ins, just tension in the air, like thunder was always about to break. Then came the party. It wasn't even Ethan's scene, but he showed up anyway. She was there, laughing again, this time with someone new. Some guy in a leather jacket who looked like he read poetry and broke hearts for fun. Ethan kept his distance, at first, watched as she flirted without once glancing toward him, until leather jacket guy placed a kiss on her cheek. Then Ethan moved. He didn't touch her, didn't say a word, just stepped into her line of sight and smiled dark, slow, knowing. She froze mid-laugh, and he walked away, giving her the same heat she had given him nights ago, dragging it through her bones like fire. She followed him outside minutes later, breath shaky, eyes wild. This has to stop, she whispered. Then stop me. She didn't. She kissed him instead, and neither of them noticed the black SUV parked across the street, watching, waiting. The SUV was still there the next morning. Ethan didn't notice at first. He wasn't looking for shadows. He was too busy replaying the way Mira's nails had raked down his spine, the way she had whispered his name like it meant something again. He had woken up to find her sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing only his shirt, legs crossed, cigarette between her fingers, something she only did when she was thinking too much. He wanted to ask her what was on her mind, but the look on her face stopped him. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't regret. It was conflict. Like she was fighting a war inside herself. "You still seeing Theo?" he asked, breaking the silence. Her eyes flicked to him. "Does it matter?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew it did. She didn't stay long. Said she had things to do. Said she didn't want to fall back into old patterns. But before she left, she kissed him so softly it almost hurt. Then she was gone, and the SUV pulled away from the curb 2 seconds later. It wasn't coincidence. That night, Ethan stood by the window, lights off, watching the street. The SUV came back, parked, waited, left after a few hours. It didn't do anything. No one got out. No one approached. Just watched. And something deep inside him twisted. He tried calling Mira. No answer. Tried texting. Nothing. Then around midnight, the door creaked open. She stepped inside, wet from the rain, shaking, her eyes wide, like she'd seen a ghost. "Mira," he said carefully. She didn't speak, just threw her arms around him and held on like if she let go, she'd disappear. He pulled her in without question, fingers curling into her damp hair. They stayed like that for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "I think someone's following me." Ethan's arms tensed. "Tell me everything. I've seen the same car 3 times in days. Dark SUV, tinted windows, always nearby. When I'm walking, at the cafe, outside the studio. I thought I was imagining it, but you're not." He cut in. "It's been outside here too." She pulled back, eyes searching his. "Why?" He didn't have an answer. Not yet. But he wasn't about to let her walk into danger alone. The next morning, they left together. Different clothes, different route. Ethan drove. Mira kept checking the rearview mirror. For a while, there was nothing. No black SUV, no tail, just silence. Then Mira said something that made his blood go cold. "There's something I never told you." He glanced at her. "Now's a good time. Back in college, there was this guy, Liam. He was charming at first, obsessive later. He didn't take no well." "You dated him?" "No, I turned him down, politely, firmly. Then he started sending letters, showing up, threatening my friends." "What happened?" "I reported him. He got arrested. Psych-Evil said he wasn't dangerous, just fixated. He disappeared after that. No one's heard from him in years. And now you think he's back?" "I don't know, but that SUV, it feels like him." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You should have told me. I didn't think it mattered." "You matter." She looked away. They went to the police, filed a report, but there wasn't much to go on. No plates, no photos, just suspicion and a history buried too long. The officer gave them polite words and false comfort. That night, Ethan insisted she stay at his place. She didn't argue. They didn't touch, didn't kiss, just lay beside each other, too awake for sleep, too alert to dream. At 2:43 a.m., Mira jolted upright. "There's someone outside." Ethan was already up, grabbing the bat from under his bed. He moved silently to the window, pulled back the curtain, empty street, until a shadow moved near the tree line. He couldn't make out a face, just a shape, watching. He stepped outside without thinking. Mira locked the door. The figure didn't run, didn't flinch, just stood there. Ethan marched across the street, ready to confront whoever it was, but when he reached the spot, no one gone and no footsteps. No rustling, just silence, and the sound of Mira's panicked breathing from the porch behind him. The next morning, Mira found something tucked under the windshield wiper of Ethan's car. A note. It read, "You can't protect her from what she doesn't remember." She went pale. "What does that mean?" Ethan asked. She swallowed hard. "I don't know." But he saw something flicker in her eyes. A flash of memory, of guilt, of something buried too deep. "Tell me the truth," he said. "All of it." She hesitated, fingers trembling. Then softly she said, "There's more. About Liam." about what really happened. But if I tell you, you might not love me after. And before he could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. A male voice on the other end whispered, "Did you miss me, Mira?" She dropped the phone. Ethan caught the phone before it hit the floor, but the call had already ended. Mira was frozen, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wide and unblinking, like she'd been thrown back into a memory she'd spent years trying to erase. He gripped her shoulders. Was that him? She nodded. Just once. The voice, it was the same. I haven't heard it in years, but Ethan, he sounded happy. Like this was all a game to him. His gut twisted. What did he mean, what you don't remember? Her hands trembled. Back then, when things got bad, I blacked out a lot. There are pieces missing, weeks that feel like fog. I thought it was stress, trauma. The therapist said it was dissociation. But now I think, he did something. Something I've blocked out. Then we'll bring it back, Ethan said fiercely. We'll dig until we find it. That night, they went through her old college things, boxes buried in closets and under beds, old letters, journals, photos. Ethan read silently as Mira flipped through a notebook full of half-scribbled poetry and frantic sketches. Then her fingers stopped. This, she whispered, turning the page toward him. It was a drawing, a man standing at the foot of her bed. No face, just a black void where eyes should be. And above it, her own handwriting scrawled, "He waits until I sleep." Ethan stared at it, then at her. You drew this? She nodded slowly. But I don't remember doing it. Suddenly, the lights in the apartment flickered, then went out. Everything fell into darkness. Ethan stood instantly, grabbing the flashlight from the drawer. Mira clung to his arm as they moved to the hallway. The air felt heavier, like the world was holding its breath. Then came the knock. One knock, precise, measured, like a countdown. He moved to the door. Mira hissed, "Don't open it." But he already had. The hallway was empty. And no one in sight, just a second note lying on the floor. This one read, "She forgot the attic." Mira staggered back. No, that's not possible. We didn't have an attic at the dorm. Ethan looked at her. Are you sure? She blinked. We weren't allowed up there. I thought it was sealed. The building was old, unsafe. There were rumors. But we're going back, he said. She started to argue. He held up a hand. You want answers? You want him out of your life? We have to go back. So the next morning, they drove to the old campus. Everything felt smaller now, colder. Time hadn't erased the energy. If anything, it had sharpened it. The building was still there. Still red brick and ivy-stained windows. Still locked tight. But Ethan picked the lock like he'd done 1,000 times in his reckless youth. Inside, it smelled of mildew and memory. Mira led him up 3 floors to the end of the hallway. This is where I lived, she said softly. He turned on the flashlight, found the panel in the ceiling near the stairwell. There was a crawl space, an old iron hook, and when he pushed it open, dust rained down in a breathless sigh. He climbed first, helping Mira up behind him. The attic was dark, cold, silent, until the flashlight beam landed on the far wall. Dozens of drawings, hundreds of her, some sleeping, some screaming, some with her eyes scratched out. They were drawn on the walls, on pages, on napkins, in pen, in blood. Mira dropped to her knees, breathing hard. No. Ethan pulled out his phone, taking photos, calling the police. Then, Mira crawled towards something in the corner. A box. Inside, more letters. Some addressed to her, some to no one. And at the bottom, a bracelet. Her bracelet. One she'd lost during her first month at college. I remember now, she whispered. He got in. He took something. He said if I didn't love him, he'd make me forget how. Suddenly, Ethan's phone buzzed. Blocked number. Text message. Now you remember. That's step 1. Step 2. Lose him again. He looked around wildly. No service, he muttered. Mira, we have to go. But she didn't move. Ethan, look. She pointed to a photograph on the floor. It was recent. A photo of her in Ethan's apartment, taken through the window. Last week, he grabbed her, yanked her to her feet, and rushed back down the attic stairs. But as they stepped into the 3rd floor hallway, a figure stood at the far end. Hoodie, hands in pockets, face in shadow. Ethan moved in front of her. Who are you? He barked. The figure tilted its head, then whispered, loud enough to echo, I never left. and vanished down the stairwell. They gave chase, but the building was a maze, and by the time they reached the exit, he was gone. That night, Mira sat on the edge of Ethan's bed, staring at her hands. I remember more, she said. He was inside the room, not just watching. I woke up once. He was standing over me. Ethan knelt in front of her. We'll find him, I swear. But her voice dropped. What if he never left me? He frowned. What do you mean? She turned her eyes toward him, haunted. What if I did love him? What if that's the part I forgot? Before he could answer, the power cut again, and this time, the front door opened slowly, on its own. Ethan moved without thinking, snatching the bat from under the couch and positioning himself between Mira and the slowly creaking front door. The hallway beyond was dark, no footsteps, no voices, just the hum of a threat they couldn't see. Mira clutched his arm, whispering so low he almost didn't catch it. This is how it started last time. He tightened his grip on the bat. Stay behind me. He stepped into the hallway. Nothing. Then he heard it just barely, the quietest exhale, like someone holding their breath too long. From the closet, Ethan yanked it open, bat raised, empty, except for the coat rack, and a third note pinned to it with a bloody thumbtack. You're not the first man she loved, just the first to survive. He ripped the note down and turned back. Mira was staring at him with hollow eyes. That handwriting. It's mine. No, Ethan said flatly. It's not. It's made to look like yours, to mess with your head. But I used to write things in my sleep, she whispered. They said it was part of the trauma. Once I even wrote an entire letter to someone I didn't remember. He walked over and cupped her face. You're not crazy, Mira. Someone is trying to break you. She nodded, tears building, but she didn't cry. She just said, then let's break him first. The next day, they met with Detective Claire Roan, an old contact of Ethan's from a case years back. She didn't work stalking cases anymore, but one look at the drawings from the attic and the photo of Mira in Ethan's apartment window changed her mind. I'll get a team on it, she said. But this guy? He's methodical, controlled. He's building towards something. Like what? Mira asked. Claire hesitated. Possession, obsession, or a reenactment. Serial fixations like this, they always end the same. What does that mean? Ethan pressed. Claire looked them both dead in the eye. It means he's preparing to finish what he started. And if you want to survive, you need to figure out what he thinks that is. That night, Mira couldn't sleep. Ethan held her in bed, listening to the storm pound against the windows. At 3:27 a.m., she sat bolt upright. I remember something. He turned to her. What? She stood, pacing. There was a letter. Liam gave it to me the night before he was arrested. I never opened it. I was too scared. I shoved it into my dresser drawer at school and forgot it. But it wasn't in the attic. It wasn't anywhere. So it's still there? She nodded. In my old dorm, room 317. The next morning, they went back. The campus was sealed off now. Police tape over the entrance. But Mira knew a way in through the rear laundry chute. They climbed in through the rusted gate and made their way up to the third floor. Her old room. It hadn't been touched in years. Dust layered thick, furniture covered in old sheets. She went to the dresser, breath shallow, opened the bottom drawer. Nothing. She pulled it all the way out and found a hidden false bottom. Inside, the letter, unopened, yellowed, addressed in Liam's uneven handwriting. To Mira, when you're ready to remember. Ethan opened it carefully. Inside was a single sentence. You said you loved me, even after. Mira sank to the floor. Oh my God, what did I do? He knelt beside her. What's he talking about? I don't know. I don't remember. But something happened after he was arrested. Something I've blocked completely. As she trembled in Ethan's arms, he heard a soft click behind them. They turned. The door was closed, locked. Then a speaker in the ceiling crackled to life. A distorted voice whispered, and now the test. If he really loves you, he'll let you go. Suddenly, gas began hissing from the vents. Ethan grabbed Mira's hand and rushed to the window, but the glass was sealed tight. His lungs began to burn. There, Mira shouted, pointing at the crawl space above the closet. Ethan boosted her up first, then climbed in after her, just as the room below filled with thick white fog. They crawled in silence until they reached a narrow grate that opened into the old library storage room. They fell through it, gasping, coughing, but alive. But Mira was pale, shaking, eyes wide with terror. Ethan, she whispered. That voice. It wasn't Liam. What do you mean? I remember now. Liam wasn't alone. What? There was someone else, always in the background. I thought he was a friend, but now I think he was the real one behind it all. Who? I don't know his name. I never saw his face. Just eyes, cold, calculating. He told Liam what to do. Then that's who's after you now. She nodded slowly. And I think he's someone we know. Before Ethan could reply, his phone buzzed. Another message. She always forgets me. But you won't. Attached. A photo of Ethan's sister, found, unconscious in an unfamiliar room, with a clock behind her, counting down from 2 hours, 16 minutes, 47 seconds. Ethan's hands went ice cold as he stared at the photo. His sister, Kayla, her face bruised, gagged, wrists tied behind her back. She was sitting on a chair in a dim room with concrete walls. And that clock, it wasn't digital, it was an old, analog wall clock with a red second hand ticking down like a heartbeat, frozen in the middle of some unseen threat. Mira leaned over his shoulder, covering her mouth. Oh my God, that's your sister. He looked at her. You recognize that room? She shook her head, panic rising. No, but he sent this because he knows where to hit you. This isn't just about me anymore. Ethan was already moving. Claire, we need her now. He called Detective Roan, and within 15 minutes, she met them at a nearby cafe, away from prying eyes. They showed her the photo. She studied the clock, the cracks on the wall, the single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. I know that place, she said grimly. It's an abandoned industrial complex out near Ashburn Creek. We raided it 2 years ago on a trafficking tip. It was empty, but the layout matches this. Ethan stood. Then we go. Now. Claire raised her hand. Hold up. This guy's smart. If he wanted her dead, she'd already be dead. He's counting on you rushing in. I don't care. You should, she snapped. Because if you get caught or killed, Mira's alone. And he wins. Ethan looked at Mira. She didn't say a word, but the fear in her eyes screamed louder than anything. Claire sighed. I'll bring backup, but it'll take time. You two stay put. Don't do anything stupid. But Ethan was already thinking ahead. When Claire left, Mira whispered, You're not going to wait, are you? He looked at her. Would you? She didn't answer. By the time the sun began to set, they were already driving north. The Ashburn site sat behind rusted gates, overgrown with weeds and thyme. As they approached, Ethan could see the dark shapes of crumbling warehouses under the dying light. One of them had a light on, a single bulb in a window, swinging slowly. He parked far off, and they moved in silence, sticking to shadows. Then Mira froze. She was staring at the ground, at a row of faint chalk marks leading toward the far warehouse. He followed her gaze. He remembered something she'd said once, back when they were just friends, sitting on her floor after too many drinks. How she used to draw maps in chalk when she was scared as a child. How it helped her feel in control. These are yours, he whispered. She nodded slowly. I must have been here before. Maybe this is where whatever happened ended. They followed the marks. Inside, the warehouse was colder than outside. The walls were covered in old plastic sheeting. Chains hung from the ceiling like metal vines. In the distance, they heard a faint ticking. Then a voice, distorted again, over hidden speakers. Tick-tock, Ethan. Prove your love, or she dies like the others. Others? He turned to Mira. Her face had gone blank. Mira, what does he mean, others? I don't know. Mira, I said I don't know. The warehouse lights flickered on. Kayla was there, tied to a chair, just like the photo, gagged, bruised but alive. And behind her stood a man in a mask. Not Liam, someone taller, leaner. The mask was blank, white, no eyes, no mouth. The man lifted a finger to the side of his head and tilted it like a puppet on a string. Then a door slammed shut behind them. Gas hissed again. But this time, from above, Ethan shoved Mira to the ground and pulled his jacket over her head. As he held his breath and ran for Kayla, the masked man didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched. Ethan cut the ropes with the knife hidden in his boot, then dragged Kayla off the chair and toward the emergency exit he'd seen on the blueprints. Earlier, Mira was already on her feet helping. They crashed through the side door and fell into the dirt outside, coughing, gagging, alive. The masked man hadn't followed. He hadn't needed to. Inside Kayla's pocket, they found another note. You can save her life, but it'll cost. Mira's truth. Kayla was rushed to the hospital. Stable, bruised, drugged, but safe. Claire met them in the air, demanding answers. I told you to wait, he gave us a choice, Ethan said. Her life, or Mira's memories. Claire's face hardened. Then it's not over. Mira looked up slowly. I think I know who he is. Ethan turned to her. What? It wasn't just Liam who followed me back then. There was another boy, quiet, always in the background. He never spoke, not once, but he watched, every day. His name was Isaac. He was in one of my psych classes. Never even raised his hand. Isaac, Claire repeated. Last name? Donovan. I think, but no one ever talked to him. He was invisible, like he wanted to be. Claire pulled out her phone. I'll run him. As Claire made the call, Ethan looked at Mira. Are you okay? No, she said honestly. But I think I'm remembering something. Her voice dropped. There were more girls. What? Liam wasn't the only one obsessed. He was a puppet. Someone else pulled the strings. Isaac collected things. Photos, locks of hair, notes. I think he's done this before. Ethan's chest tightened. And now he's doing it again. Mira nodded, voice barely a whisper. And I think I loved him to once. I just didn't know it was him. Claire hung up the phone. Her face was pale. Isaac Donovan died in a fire 2 years ago. Body confirmed by dental records. Ethan's stomach dropped. Mira looked up, terrified. Then who's been watching me? Claire didn't answer, because right then, the power flickered, and across the hospital TV screens, all at once, a live feed appeared, of Mira sleeping in Ethan's bed, last night, with a shadowy figure sitting beside her, stroking her hair. Mira screamed and covered her mouth, her knees buckling as the footage looped across every hospital screen, static stained, grainy, yet unmistakably real. Ethan's room, her asleep, and the figure sitting silently beside her, head tilted like a lover, fingers gently trailing through her hair while she slept, unaware. The kind of intimacy that didn't just speak of obsession, it spoke of possession. Ethan lunged at the nearest screen and ripped the power cord from the wall. Claire barked orders to a security team already scrambling across the floor. Lock this building down. No one leaves. Find the source of that signal now. Mira turned to Ethan, trembling. That was last night. He was in the room. He was in the room with us. While we were sleeping. He grabbed her arms. He didn't touch you. You don't know that, she whispered. Claire returned a moment later, phone to her ear, jaw tight. There was no breach in security. That feed was remotely injected into the building's internal systems. Whoever did this, he's inside the network. Ethan's voice was sharp. But you said Isaac was dead. He is, Claire said, still watching Mira carefully. But there's a chance someone else took up his obsession. Or worse, he faked his death. Mira shook her head, eyes brimming. No, I saw the fire. I saw the body bag. Claire stepped closer. You saw the body? Or were you told it was his? The room went silent. Mira's mind spun. It happened after I left. I read about it in the news. They said he died in a fire, caused by faulty wiring. Claire nodded grimly. And how convenient that his obsession disappears at the same time, Ethan paced. So let's say Isaac's alive. Why wait this long? Claire's voice dropped. Because now she remembers. And that's what he's always been waiting for. Suddenly, Ethan's phone buzzed. Another text. Check the mirror. He turned. On the wall beside them was a mirror. Just a hospital mirror, speckled and slightly cracked. Except now, Mira's name was etched into the surface, over and over, layered, crossed, carved, dozens, no, hundreds of times. Claire stepped forward, touched the glass. Her finger came away. Red dot. It wasn't ink. He was here, Mira said hollowly. Claire stared at the mirror. Or he is. That night, Mira refused to go home. Ethan booked a private hotel suite under a fake name with no digital footprint. Claire stationed 2 officers outside the door, but Ethan didn't sleep. Neither did Mira. Around the M, she sat up in bed, pale and shaking. I remember something else. He looked over from the chair he'd been sitting in, watching her like a guard dog. I was in the hospital once, she whispered. After Liam's arrest, I overdosed. Everyone thought it was a cry for help, but I didn't take anything. What are you saying? I think Isaac did. I think he was there. She pulled back her sleeve, a small scar on her arm. I woke up with this. No explanation. I asked the nurses, they said I got it during intake. But what if? She trailed off. Ethan moved closer. What if what? What if he put something inside me? Ethan recoiled. Mira, no, listen. What if the memory gaps, the obsession, the fear it wasn't just trauma. What if he planted something in me, like a tracking chip or a trigger? Ethan stared at her arm, and then her skin twitched. Under the scar, a subtle movement, like a pulse. His breath caught. Get Claire, now. Within minutes, they had Mira in an emergency clinic under false registration. A scan confirmed the impossible. There was a small metal object lodged just beneath the surface of her arm. Too small to be a device, too crude to be tech, but attached to it was a thin wire, broken, long dead. It wasn't a tracker. It was a fuse. Claire stared at the X-ray. What the hell is this? The doctor had no answers, just a guess. It looks like something homemade, not surgical, planted during unconsciousness, meant to terrify, and it had worked. They removed it. Mira stared at the object like it was a piece of her soul dug out from rot. I think he wanted me to find it. He wanted me to wonder, forever. That night, back in the hotel, Mira finally collapsed into Ethan's arms, sobbing. He's inside my head. Even now, I feel like he's watching through my eyes. Ethan held her tight. He's not. You're safe. But his words felt empty, because in the hallway camera feed, one screen flickered just once, just long enough to catch a figure standing behind the guards, watching, waiting, smiling. The moment Ethan saw the figure on the camera feed, every instinct in his body screamed, run. Not away but toward the hallway, toward danger, toward whatever this thing was that had sunk its claws into Mira's soul and refused to let go. He grabbed his gun from the drawer, shoved a spare clip into his back pocket, and kissed Mira once hard, desperate, as if anchoring himself to the only real thing left in the world. Then he opened the hotel door. The hallway was empty. The two guards were there slumped against the wall, unconscious. No blood, no struggle, just downed like puppets with cut strings. Mira, Ethan shouted, stay inside. He ran, down the hallway, into the stairwell. Nothing, until he saw it. A single red string tied around the third-floor railing, dangling like bait. He pulled it gently, and a note fluttered out from behind a fire extinguisher. She gave herself to me. You only borrowed her. His rage boiled over. He sprinted back upstairs, heart pounding in his throat, and burst into the room. Mira was gone. No broken windows, no signs of struggle, no sound, just the open balcony door, curtain flapping like a waving goodbye, and a faint buzzing from his phone. Unknown number. He answered. Mira? He gasped, but it wasn't her voice. It was his. The man, calm, precise, every syllable delivered like a scalpel. You should have let her forget, Ethan, but you forced the memory, and now I'll make sure you never forget either. Where is she? Ethan barked. The man laughed quietly. You were always the decoy. She was never running from me. She was running to me. The part of her you loved is gone. I own what's left. The line went dead. Ethan stared at the phone, chest heaving. Then he turned to the mirror. Mira had written something on it in lipstick. 3 words. He's the mirror. Claire was there in minutes. She'd traced Isaac's old dorm roommate, a man named Daniel Crest. Quiet, isolated, failed out of university shortly after Isaac's death. Never left town. A maintenance worker found him in an abandoned building on the south side 2 years ago, burned, supposedly dead. But now Ethan saw what really happened. Daniel was Isaac, or at least, what was left of him. A burned mind, a fractured obsession, a new identity born from ash. He's always been watching, Claire said grimly, from the background, letting Liam take the fall, letting you think you were saving her. Ethan's voice was steel. Where is he now? Claire showed him the traffic camera footage. Mira in the back seat of a car, unconscious, being driven to a remote location in the mountains outside the city. There was one landmark there, the Grey Chapel, a place Mira had once painted as a child, a place that didn't exist on any map until Isaac built it. They followed the trail until the road ran out, then went on foot through forest and fog. The air grew colder, the trees more twisted, and then, out of the mist, it appeared, a stone chapel, silent, forgotten, standing in a clearing like a wound. Inside, candles flickered. Old portraits lined the walls, every one of Mira. Different styles, ages, emotions, obsession captured in charcoal and oil. And at the altar, Mira, bound to a wooden chair, eyes closed, lips stitched with red thread. Not real stitches, paint. Thick, symbolic, smeared by fingers that worshipped and violated all at once. Ethan ran, but the door slammed behind him, locking him inside, and from the shadows emerged the figure. Not masked this time. Isaac, burned, twisted, but grinning with unholy calm. She chose me, he whispered. Ethan raised his gun. Isaac didn't flinch. You want to save her? Then answer this. What was the last thing she said to you before she left? Ethan hesitated. She kissed me. Isaac shook his head. Words, Ethan. She said something. Ethan's voice wavered. She said, she loved me. Isaac grinned wider. No, she said she felt watched. And I was there, right beside her. You missed it. Isaac lunged. Ethan fired. Twice. Isaac collapsed, blood spreading across the chapel floor like ink. Ethan rushed to Mira, cutting her free. Her eyes fluttered open. You found me, she whispered. He pulled her into his arms. Always. But then her eyes widened. Her hand reached for his face. Behind him, movement. Isaac, still alive, lunged with a blade, but Mira was faster. She grabbed the knife from Ethan's boot and stabbed upward with a scream that echoed through the walls of the chapel. This time, Isaac fell and didn't move. Later, as the sirens approached and the medics treated Mira, she sat wrapped in Ethan's arms beneath the trees, face buried in his chest. I'm scared, she whispered. You're safe now. No, she said. Not of him. Then what? She looked up. Of who I became when I was with him. He didn't answer. He just held her tighter. But as they drove away, in the back of an ambulance, Mira glanced into the mirror overhead, and for a second, just one, she thought she saw him again, smiling back at her.